Let's start again, guys. My name's Stuart Brisgell, and I'm here by myself because my cohort couldn't make it, David Solomon. As the Rant Network approaches and goes beyond its sixth year of broadcasting every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, noon Eastern around the world, whether on our website, on social media, whether our issue has been blocked, removed, or redacted by the agencies like Facebook, LinkedIn, and others, we still come over and over and over again pushing the limits of reporting. And we're reporting things in the news that may not be presented accurately or appropriately. So sit back and relax as we ask you to do every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, noon Eastern. The ice. No, not hockey, David. The scores. No, not hockey, David. The scandals. No, once again, not hockey, David. Well, why am I saying that? Because David, as you know, is a massive hockey fan. But it's more about the history of figure skating and judging crisis that's currently amok. You know what's fascinating about figure skating? It's the only sport where you can't execute a perfect triple axel, land it clean as a whistle, and then lose to someone who fell not once, but twice. Because a judge from a country, biased because it's their country, decided that their artistic impression landing on their keister was more compelling. I'm coming to you today with this topic that combines everything we love to dissect and show international politics, corruption, human bias masquerading as objectivity, and billions of dollars riding on that decision made by people who claim they're impartial, but somehow keep scoring their own countrymen just a few tenths higher of a point, higher and higher, more than physics would suggest is reasonable. Let's talk about 2026 Olympic figure skating judge. Buckle up because the rabbit hole goes deeper than a quadruple toe loop. And before anyone thinks that this is ancient history, let me tell you, it's happened again just this week. We're going to get into that, but trust me, it's a doozy. But first, we need to understand how we got to this fundamental problem. Here's the thing that makes figure skating different from almost every other Olympic sport. There's no finish line. There's no clock. There's no ball going into a net. There's no Usain Bolt crossing a finish line. When Michael Phelps touches the wall before everyone else, it's a simple gold medal once he passes his drug test. Objective, measurable, but figure skates ask judges to evaluate technique, execution, and artistry interpretation simultaneously when it combines those scores to determine who gets to stand on the podium and hear their national anthem. And right there is where we introduce subjectivity to a competition that's supposed to be fair. And let me tell you something. Is it? Now, the International Skating Union will tell you they've got a system. We've got the technical element scores that are supposed to be objective, measurable, and the difficulty of the jumps and spins and footwork. They've got a program component that scores and evaluates everything. Skills like transition, performance, composition, interpretation. 5 categories. Design, subjective. That's where patriotism walks through the door and sits down in the judge's seat and table, and the whispers start to occur. Whether it's 2002 Salt Lake City scandal, right? That's the big one. Let me take you back to February 2002. The pair figure skating competition. This scandal changed everything. The one that even people who don't follow skating, they followed this and remember this. You've got the Canadian pair, Jamie Saleh and David, sorry, Jamie, which is the girl, and David, they skated a flawless program. And I mean flawless. I remember this. My wife forced me to watch it. Clean jumps, perfect synchronization, and a kind of performance that makes a casual viewer say, wow, that was awesome. And the crowd went absolutely insane. You know what? They just witnessed something very special. When you've got a Russian pair, Elena and Anton, they skated well, but it was a clear stumble on the landing of their double axel. It's not subjective. It's not interpretation. It's a stumble, kind of like a double fall. You can see it. Everyone saw it. So naturally, who do you think won the gold medal? The Canadians that were flawless or the Russians that stumbled? Well, if you'd like me to go quick and give you the answer, so the Russians won the gold medal. The crowd erupted in boos, not polite boos, at the Olympics because everyone watching knew something wasn't right. And the Canadians were the ones who were victorious. Here's what happened behind the scene. An investigation outwards, a French judge, Marie-Renée Lagourne, later admitted she was pressured by the head of the French Skating Federation to vote for the Russians in exchange for Russian support for the French ice dancing team. Tit for tat, pay to play. And this was a voting scheme. Yep. So we're talking about appropriation bills for Congress? Now, the scandal was so egregious that the IOC eventually awarded a second gold medal to the Canadians. They literally made medal ceremony controversy. That's the last time you saw the Olympics go. You know what? We messed up so badly, we're going to judge out 2 golds. But that wasn't really what gets me. This wasn't something that was shocking revelation that came out of nowhere. People have known in the skating world this shit happens. They knew it. It was obvious. But the media would have you believe in denial, denial, denial. Almost sounds like politics in the United States, guys. They knew there would be a bias in the media. All right, but it doesn't just stop there. Let me go back a few years to 1998, the Gano debacle, where even further, ladies figure skating is where we have to start. And the crack in the system before Salt Lake City, which made Salt Lake City impossible. You've got Michelle Kwan, the American favorite, the beloved sweetheart, technically brilliant. And then you've got Tara Lipinski, also younger, also technically strong. And you've got the international competitor, Chen Lu from China. Lipinski wins. Fine. She landed a 7 triple jump, including a triple loop-de-loop competition. By the way, I had to look that up, guys, so I didn't have that on history. Technical excellence. But here's where it gets interesting. Look at the scores from the different judges. The marks are so wildly. One judge saw 5.7, the other saw 5.9. We're talking about the same performance, the same scoring system, the same jumps by experts who can agree within a reasonable margin. This is the fundamental question. If we can get consistency among expert judges, can we actually measure this? Because it's truly objective skills and technical skills. They should be tighter, but they don't. They never do. The artistic interpretation smokescreen, it goes. And that's why for decades and decades, figure skating used a 6-point system, 0 to 6. The system was ripe for manipulation because the marks didn't have an absolute meaning. Judges could just almost anyways, 5.7 or 5.8, 5.9. What was the difference? So this has been a creepy problem The new system, same problems, different packaging. Kind of like politics yet again. From -5 to +5, scale from 0.25 to 10, increments of a quarter point, 5 categories. Nope. Because the 2014 Sochi controversy. Let's jump into 2014. The Russians are hosting the Olympics. Home ice advantage. Ladies figure skating. Adelina Sotkenkova, Russian wins gold. Yuna Kim of South Korea, defending Olympic champion, gets silver. Again, it happens. The scores were astronomically different, which brings us to today. The week of February 12th, that's just yesterday, 24 years after Salt Lake, the ISU supposedly had fixed a problem, and we've got another Olympic dance scandal. And according to Forbes, judging disciplinaries in the recent Olympic ice dance competition have sparked calls for formal investigation. That doesn't take away these athletes' emotions. These athletes have spent a lifetime getting there to be ripped from standing on that podium because of what? Political bias. They can't set aside patriotism. They can't set aside their bias. It's just not possible. They can't be impartial. Anonymous judge experiment in 2002 didn't work either. Because again, the judge is the weakest link. There's a catch-22. Judges faced with pressure from their own federations without transparency, and they face no accountability either way. That's why this keeps happening. And what makes the 2026 worse is that the Gaelings happened after all of what we learned from Salt Lake, Sochi, and countless other promises that have been promised to reform something. What gets lost? Here's what really frustrates me. The whole mess is the athletes are the incredible ones. These are the people that have dedicated an entire life to sports, to men's profession, trained for hours from childhood, sacrificed normal lives, education, childhood, life in general. They push their bodies to the physical limits. Ice dancers spend years developing partnerships over and above their sport. It requires absolute trust. And let me tell you something, you don't hear about the ones that become disabled in the process. These knives, these blades in which they're literally sprawling on, looks effortlessly. But on the Olympic stage, something that every athlete dreams of, and to be robbed by a political hack, pretending and parading to be a judge from any country is just horrible. Some people suggest using AI or computer vision to analyze technical elements for objectivity, track rotation, speeds, measurements, and evaluate it through video analytics. Take the human out. That could work for technical components and pairs. But what about ice dancing, where there are no jumps, and it's only about artistry? How do you teach algorithmic appreciation for musical choreography? Maybe we need to separate the two. Technical elements and objective matrix. Artist components different than a panel. Or maybe we need to completely reimagine how we select judges, or maybe how we totally select what's in the Olympics. It needs to be quantifiable, has to be undeniable. There's a radical thought. There's a bigger picture. Where it goes, I don't know, but 2026 and technology seems to be more and more of the same, but hopefully for these athletes will be a tipping point, a turning point. The matrix of ambiguity will go on. Here's some clothing thoughts. I don't love figure skating, but I love the athleticism. I don't love the artistry. I love the combination of power that makes grace unique among sports. I love the athletes to both technically and emotionally compelling. I like watching the conclusion, but I can't keep watching this happen and watch athletes being robbed. 2026 scandal isn't an aberration. It's not a one-time failure. It's inevitable with an Olympic system and a national system that's flawed and unfair to competition. Until the ISU and the IOC come to their senses, we will have the same issue yet again in the next Ice Olympics. Well, everyone, my name's Stuart Brisgell, and I got to tell you, it's an absolute pleasure to have been here for the last 2 days without David and to uninterrupted give you what I believe is a fair and honest rant. I wish David a welcome back Monday. I wish you all a great weekend. And if you're going to the concourse in Miami, see you there. And if not, we'll see you on Monday. Keep ranting every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, noon Eastern, or catch our shorts